Death. It happens to everyone. Someday it will happen to each of us. As a reality of life, there are people who need to work around death and dead people every day. And while most days are probably pretty boring and mundane, sometimes some strange, odd, or even funny things can happen. Today we're going to be looking at a few of the most interesting stories from people who have worked around death. Some of these stories are spooky, some of them are horrifying, some are even humorous, but the last one leaves me wondering, just what is the government up to? If you're new to the channel, I tell stories that have chill vibes, but may just send a chill down your spine as well. That's right, I specialize in spooky stories, mysterious myths, and spectral sagas of ethereal echoes. So if that kind of content interests you, feel free to subscribe. Statistically speaking, none of my subscribers have ever been eaten by a Wendigo. Yet. I used to be a security guard at a hospital. One night, while doing my rounds, I went into the surgery wing and was walking down a hallway when I saw a doctor looking at the whiteboard where all the scheduled surgeries are written down. I said, "Hello, doctor," and kept going. The doctor didn't say anything back, just kept studying the whiteboard. When I got back to the security office, I was telling one of the guys that's been there for years about how I greeted this doctor and he didn't say anything back. I asked if that's the guy they told me to watch out for. I was asked where I saw him and I said the surgery ward, and he gave me a smirk. He then explained that the surgery ward closes at 9 p.m. and that all patients are moved into the monitoring wards. There should be no one there. He then asked me if this doctor was studying the schedule board. I said yes, and he told me that I just met Dr. Lucetti. Apparently, some many years ago, one of the surgeons went up to the helipad and jumped off the building. Seems like he never stopped working, though. I was a junior doctor on the wards, doing a night shift. I was called in to verify a death. I enter the private bay. It's all a bit grim, kind of a slightly gloomy room. The patient is lying there, old man, looks peaceful. I start my checks, get my stethoscope out, no signs of active respiration, no heart sounds. I rub the sternum for a response, none. Time to get closer and check the central nervous system for any signs of life. I lift the eyelids up, reach for my pen torch, and start leaning in closer to the patient. That's when it happens. The patient lurches forward, his face now inches away from mine. I scream. Nurses rush in and ask what's happened. "What was that noise? Why so pale? You look like you've seen a ghost." That's when I realize I leant in too close and my leg brushed against the bed controls, raising the bed. Nurses couldn't stop laughing as they offered to make me a cup of tea. I worked within hospice and long-term care. The spookiest phenomenon was the man in the corner. It happens all the time for people actively dying. They see a shadowy man in the corner of their room. This wasn't me, but a colleague found a dead person in a dark, smoke-filled, burned-out building during the mop-up of firefighting operations. As unfortunately happens sometimes, you find them by stepping on them. If they're still intact, you kind of bounce off them. If they're fried, you can often crunch them up pretty bad under your heavy boot. Well, this guy stood right on a badly burned corpse's sternum. Crunch, right into the chest cavity. When he tried to pull his foot out, it got stuck on the ribs and the body came up at him. Burned up arms flailing about. It took him a few tries to get his boot unstuck, with what looked like a zombie stuck on his leg. He needed quite a bit of counseling. Poor dude. This isn't a ghost story, but when I was in the Army, I served on a few honor guard duties for transporting soldiers' remains. One time we were taking Korean War-era remains that had been uncovered in Korea and transported to the USA for identification. For most of the remains, the transfer cases, which were industrial aluminum caskets, were very light, like you'd expect with 40-year-old remains. A couple of the cases were heavy, like a couple 100 pounds. I've never stopped wondering what was in those cases. It definitely wasn't 40-year-old bones. Well, that wraps up our 5 spooky and mysterious stories about death. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more like it, go ahead and subscribe. I'll be uploading up to 5 times per week, and I plan to make every video better than the last. You may also enjoy my previous video, which was about a solo Australian camper's terrifying experience as he was stalked by some unknown creature in the Australian swamplands. With that being said, thanks for watching. Have a great day, or a very good night.